Does your crust burn before the pie is done? Here's one easy trick for show-stopping pies. If you don't have a pie shield, here's how to make one. So I have a piece of foil. It's just a little bit bigger than my pie plate. I'm gonna fold it in half, fold it in quarters, and then make a little triangle. I like the heavy-duty foil. It holds up a little bit more. It's a little sturdier to keep its shape around the pie. Put the point around the center and just cut across. You can try to make a semicircle like that. We have our little pizza slice, our little pie slice. And then to make an open center pie shield, we're just gonna take a little bit out of the center, just leaving a few inches on the edge. Now we unfold our pie shield. So this is perfect to do. You've made your pie, or maybe you even got a pre-made pie. This is perfect for that too. Any kind of bake it yourself pie, make yourself a pie shield. You wanna do this before you bake your pie. That way your pie shield's on standby. If you do notice some over browning, you don't have to panic. You can just reach for your pie shield and put it on the pie. So there we go. Usually the center won't brown as quickly because there's a lot of extra moisture there, but those edges, they brown really quickly. There's not a lot of moisture on the edges. So basically that's it. And it's gonna be different for each pie pan you're using, each different type of pie you're making. That's why you do this in advance, make sure it all fits around. Say you need to cut a little bit more out of the center, you can do that as well. But I like just it to gently rest on top. Sometimes you'll wanna crimp the edges so that it kind of rests on the sides. And I always bake a pie on another tray. Most pies, like especially apple pie, this pie that I made, it's notorious for oozing out, and then that creates drips in your oven. So just line a pan with some foil. That'll catch the drips, make for easy cleanup. Put my pie plate on top, create my pie shield, just like that. So I don't need this yet. I'm gonna get this baking, that will be on standby. That way when I see things browning too quickly, I can grab that pie shield, put it on. It'll let things bake evenly and nicely without over browning. Especially if you're doing this technique with your pie, some egg wash will make things brown and glossy, but it can happen pretty quick, so you wanna preserve that perfect color. Foil's great for just about anything you're making in the oven. I have a little piece on standby most of the time. If I'm roasting a chicken or a turkey, that will get brown in some spots. You just cover that with foil. Anything you put in the oven that still needs a little bake time, just reserve some foil on the side as a quick cover, just so things bake evenly, bake all the way through without browning too much on the outside. Usually like a little flaky sea salt on my savory pies. This will just bake on while it gets golden, add a little flavor. You can use kosher salt. I sometimes do some pepper on there, but this is gonna go in the oven, preheated to 400 degrees. These two pies are halfway through baking, and on this one already, the edges are getting a little too brown, but I want that center to brown up a little bit more. There's a lot of moisture, a lot of steam coming out of the center, so that's keeping that from browning too much. So the pie shield will help retain the color on the outside while the inside keeps baking. Pie shield's gonna be super important, especially for pie with like a batter filling or a liquid filling, especially when you pre-bake the outside crust. That inside needs time to bake while the outside's already had a head start and has the most exposure to the heat. So putting on that pie shield will protect that outer crust while the inside sets and bakes all the way through. You can always adjust things if it's not covering the right part. That's why I love to make it before that pie goes in the oven, because when you start to see browning and you start to see burning, the panic sets in. So you just need to calmly grab your pie shield, put it on, let things keep baking. It's a simple, easy method to prevent over browning. Now you might own a silicone pie shield, especially if you're a seasoned baker, but don't really need it. You can just resort to the foil, especially if it's a seasonal occasion for you to be making a pie. These might not always come in handy. And I like the foil too because it is kind of more rigid, more firm. You could just throw it on top. These take a little bit of finesse to get onto the pie correctly. And if you're making multiple pies and you only own one pie shield, grab some foil. Make your own pie shields. When you're making your pie shield, it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to cover the edges. You want a pretty pie, you don't need to be concerned about a pretty pie shield. These shields will keep your pies picture perfect. This is pretty heavy. I'm gonna set this down, but things are looking great. Now the foil is a great protector because that outside browns quickly, and a lot of ovens have hot spots, so you can use foil to protect your pie or your baked goods from over browning or dark spots. I have one right here, but it's personality, that's character. But this pie looks so great, nice and flaky and crispy. Can't wait to dig in. Quite impressed. I thought this would leak a lot more too, but it's all, I did a good crimp job on the outside and things have kept all that filling and all that juice inside. Perfect for your family and your feed.